Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Captain Clyde's MTG. We're back with more spoilers for Wednesday on Dominaria United. And guess what? The Lords have arrived. All hail to the King. That's right, most of the Lords have been previewed, at least from what I've seen from my snipping and clipping. So let's take a look at what we got today on the spoiler update. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe. Try and get to 1,000 subscribers, and I appreciate any help you can give. So we're going to start it off with the Sunbathing Rootwalla. Green and 1 for a 2/2 has Domain. Green and 3. Until the end of turn, Sunbathing Rootwalla gets +1/+1 for each basic land type among the lands you control. Activate only once each turn. So not too bad for a common. Probably will be pretty good in draft and limited. Next we have the Phyrexian Warhorse. That's disgusting. Anyway, black and 3 for a 3/3. It's got a kicker of 1 white. When the Warhorse enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, you get to create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. For 1, sacrifice another creature. The Warhorse gets +2/+1 until the end of turn. Not a bad common, not gonna lie. Probably good for limited. We have the Shield Wall Sentinel. 4 colorless for a 1/3 defender. When the Shield Wall Sentinel enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with defender, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. Another good card for the old Doran Tower butt fight deck, but decent. We have first rare, the Elder Dragon War. 2 red and 2. This card has read ahead, which means you can pick what chapter it goes on. So for 1, the Elder Dragon War deals 2 damage to each creature an opponent controls. Not too shabby. 2, discard any number of cards, draw that many cards. Pretty sweet. 3, create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. So this thing is going to be phenomenal in every format, especially standard, limited, probably even pioneer. Mainly because the first 2 are okay if you don't need it right away, but 4 mana for a 4/4 flyer is just good enough. I mean, let's be honest. Especially late game when you have no cards to discard, 2 mana, sometimes a 4/4 flying dragon for 4 is just good enough. Alright, next we have the Love Song of Night and Day. So this uncommon is a white and 2. Has read ahead, like always. For number 1, you and target opponent draw 2 cards. That seems busted. Number 2, create a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying. And for 3, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. So that could be any creature. I think the best thing about this is 3 mana, you and target opponent draws 2 cards. That seems a little busted, especially in Commander. Alright, moving on. Next we have the Weatherseed Treaty. So for a green and 2, we have another Saga with read ahead. Search your library on number 1 for a basic land card. Put it on the battlefield, tap, and shuffle. Pretty basic. Number 2, you get to create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. Not too shabby. Number 3, Domain. Target creature you control gets +X/+X and gains trampled in a turn, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. Probably not the best thing in the world, but just the ability to fetch yourself a land and then get a 1/1, make it bigger. It's probably good enough for limited, but probably not good enough for anything else. Next, we have the Knight of Dawn's Light. So a white and 1 colorless for a 2/2 with first strike. Man, White Knight just keeps getting better, right? And it says if you would gain life, you gain that much life +1 instead. And for a white and 1, he gets +1/+1 to end a turn, so he's pumpable. This thing is a beast. This is going to see limited play. This is going to see standard play. This is probably going to see play in almost any format because it's cheap enough, it does enough, and it's not a bad card. Moving on. Next, we have the Mossbeard Ancient. 2 green and 5 for a 7/7 with trample. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 5 life. I mean, sure, for limited, I guess. Next, we have Aron Benalia's Ruin. This is a black and 2 white for a 3/3 with menace. Not too shabby. For a black and a white, you can tap, sacrifice another creature, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. This is going to be a thing. This easily can go into any kind of Aristocrats deck. I think it's going to be a thing in Standard, probably definitely in Limited as well. The 3 mana, though, may keep it out of some of the other formats, but it might be good enough. Just saying. Next, we have Vesuvian Diplomacy. My tongue's not working. The word with a D up here, right there. Anyway, a blue and 3 for a mythic enchantment that says, whenever you cast a spell that targets only a single artifact or creature you control, create a token that's a copy of that artifact or creature, except it's not legendary. This thing is going to be busted. You know, because there's nothing like laying this thing and then give something protection or whatever, you know, ward, or you can't target it or whatever, so that you can at the same time save your creature and then make a complete copy of it for free. This thing's gonna see tons of shenanigans in probably several formats. Not even gonna lie. Alright, moving right along. Next we have the Valiant Veteran, a white and 1 for another 2/2. Other soldiers you control get +1/+1. Alright, so it's not a human, it's a soldier plussing, but it's still a lord and it's still amazing. Notice it's not legendary, so therefore you can play 4 of them. 2 white and 3, you can exile it from your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on each soldier you control. So not only do you got to kill this thing, we got to get out of the graveyard too before shenanigans happen. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lord. There's going to be a deck for every lord because these lords are just powerful. Moving right along, next we have Jodah the Unifier. That's right, Jodah's back, one of every color. He's a 5/5. It says legendary creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. Okay, so he's not a 5/5. He's technically a 6/6 when he hits. Whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile cards from top of your library until you exile a legendary non-land card with lesser mana value. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, put the rest in the bottom of the random order. Boy, this is going to be disgusting. Yeah. Well, the only thing we got going for us right now is since Keldheim rotated out, all those 5-color decks are pretty well useless until this happens. And also, if you ain't playing Commander, I suggest you play this card in Commander. Moving on. We have Tityova, Steward of Tides. God, these names are killing me. Blue and 2 green for a 3/3 land. Creatures you control have flying. Interesting. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands, up to 1 target land you control becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with haste. It's still a land. So that's pretty sweet. This is going to be a pretty good common. I don't know if right now we got any kind of standard deck that could use this, but it's going to be good for draft, limited in general, commander. And there may be a standard deck here once some more sets come out. We'll have to wait and see. We have Rivaz of the Claw. So red, black, and 1 for a 3/3 with menace. Already good. Tap it. Add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast dragon creature spells. Can you say mana dork with some cojones? It also says once during each of your turns you may cast a dragon creature spell from your graveyard. Whenever you cast a dragon creature spell from your graveyard, it gains. When this creature dies, exile it. Oh, boo-hoo. So this thing will let you cast dragons straight out of the graveyard. This is going straight into dragon commander decks. Not to mention the fact this could very well make a dragon standard deck because it's cheap, it's powerful, it has menace, and it's a mana dork. This has got a lot of stuff going for it that could possibly make this a really good card. Moving on. Next we have Tail Swipe. So for 1 green, get an instant. Choose target creature you control and a target creature you don't. If you cast this during your main phase, your creature gets +1/+1, and then they get to fight. So a pretty good uncommon for 1 green fight spell in green. Going to be great in draft and sealed formats, limited in general. This might see standard play just because it's 1 green and it's an instant. Like, I mean, it's powerful. We don't normally get effects like this cheap. So moving on. We get the Electrostatic Infantry, a red in 1 for a 1/2 with trample. Whenever you cast instant sorcery spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Electrostatic Infantry. If this ain't meant to be in Red Rush, I don't know what is. This thing is going to be disgusting. It's going to be in every Red Rush deck, not only in limited, it's going to be in standard. Heck, this might make it into a modern / pioneer style deck because there's so many, like, I mean, I could easily see this going into a modern deck. Like Boros Burn, just because it gets bigger, but it stays bigger. Unlike the prowess creatures, like Swift Spear, this thing gets large and it stays large. So, yeah, look out, Swift Spear. You might be a new boss in town. Anyway, moving on. Next we have Academy Wall. For blue and 2, it's an 0/5 defender. Whenever you cast instant sorcery spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Triggers once each turn. Not all that great. Probably good for limited. Just a little mana fix, little card dig. Leyline Binding. So a white and 5 for enchantment with flash. It's rare. Has Domain. This spell costs 1 less for each basic land among the types you control. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until Leyline leaves the battlefield. This is your typical flash card. I think it was from Battle for Zendikar. It was 4 mana. You could flash it in and do the same effect. This is going to guarantee that it only costs, because you have to have a type of land in play, 5 at most instead of 6. If you have playing 2 types, it's 4, which is like the other one. But the difference here is this doesn't cycle. It just can get cheaper. Going to be a great limited card. It might see standard play, but we'll have to wait and see. Rith Liberated Primeval. This monstrosity. White, green, red, and 2 for a 5/5 flyer with Ward 2. Other dragons you control have Ward 2. And at the beginning of your end step, if your creature or planeswalker an opponent controlled was dealt excess damage this turn, create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. This will probably try to get played in standard. We'll have to wait and see if it's even good enough. It's going to be amazing in limited. And this is going straight into every Commander Dragon deck, because why wouldn't you? So this is probably going to be a $20 mythic. So that's my guess. If it's cheaper than $20, buy it while you can, because once this set goes out of print, this thing's going through the roof. Moving on. Next we have Nail Azoria Aeronaut, whatever that means. So blue, green, and 2 for a 2/4 flyer. Elf Scout. Domain. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, look at top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library, the rest on the bottom in random order. Then if there are 5 basic land types among lands you control, draw a card. I mean, probably be good in limited, probably commander, but I don't see it going any further than that. We have Brave's Frightful Return. So for this saga with read ahead, black and 2. For 1, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, each opponent discards a card. Good. Or not bad, actually. 2, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, so the creature you just sacrificed you get picked back up. 3, target opponent may sacrifice a non-land, non-token permanent. If they don't, they lose 2 life and you draw a card. This seems pretty good for an uncommon, although limited is probably the only spot for it, but I could see some shenanigans jumping off with this in standard. Next we have Balmor, Battle Mage Captain. Red and blue for a 1/3 flyer that whenever you cast instant or sorcery spell, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain trample. I mean, there could definitely be a standard deck for this bad boy. And definitely going to be okay in limited. Next we have Leaf Crowned Visionary. So it's an elf druid. Here's your lord. 2 green for a 1/1. Elves you control get +1/+1. Whenever you cast an elf spell, you may pay 1 green. If you do, draw a card. Hoy daddy. This is going to be great in standard, great in limited, and probably going to make its way into elf decks in all formats, just because of the ability to pay 1 green and draw a card in a deck full of elves that does nothing but generate mana. Yeah, a thing. Also, not legendary, so you can play 4. Yeah, this thing's going to be expensive. Moving on. Next we have Thran Portal. So, Thran Portal enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer lands. Alright, so it's a fast land. When it enters the battlefield, choose a basic land type. Thran Portal is the chosen type in addition to other types. Mana abilities of Thran Portal cost an additional 1 life to activate. Okay. So this is very interesting. It's a gate for the gate deck. It can also be a basic land type for the domain decks. You can pick what land type that is so you get the mana you want, but it costs 1 life to activate. It's kind of like a City of Brass that comes into play untapped only if you play it early, but also counts as a basic land, but you don't get any color you want. It's going to be very interesting to see how well this plays in the current format. I think it will see a lot of play, and we'll probably see play in several things like Commander and so forth. I think this card's going to have some legs, not going to lie. Moving on. Next we have Shieldred's Restoration. So black and 3, kicker white and 2. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And that spell was if this spell was kicked, you gain life equal to its mana value. Otherwise, you lose that much life, and then you have to exile it. So this is 1 cheaper than the normal activation for getting things that back out of the graveyard. But losing a life could be a serious detriment because of that. But if you got a lot of mana, you gain life instead. Definitely a limited powerhouse. Probably about it though. Extinguish the Light. 2 black and 2, instant destroy target creature or planeswalker. If its mana value is 3 or less, you gain 3 life. Pretty good for a common, just gonna say. Um, yeah, I think it's got to be easily a very good card in limited. Might see. I mean, with Hero's Downfall, it's probably not gonna see any play past that. So anyway, Vaudevillian Hex Catcher. So here's your Merfolk alert. Blue and 1 for a 1/1 Flash Merfolk, even better. Sacrifice a Merfolk. Counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1. This is going straight in the Merfolk deck in Modern and other formats. Not to mention it may make a Merfolk deck in Standard. Uh, yeah, all the lords are looking great. They all got good abilities. It's gonna be tough. Line Breaker Baloth. So 2 green and 3 for a 4/5 with Enlist. Enlist is when this thing attacks, if you tap another creature that doesn't have Summoning Sickness and isn't attacking, it adds to its power. So it's pretty cool, and it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, so you can't mob it to death. Probably okay for limited. You have Bard, Argivian Recruiter, so red and white, legendary human soldier. Beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power greater than its base, create a 1/1 white soldier token. So that's not going to be hard to do because there's all kinds of white stuff that's a 2/1. It is legendary, but it's going to be great for the Boros deck, which is already seeing lots of play. Yeah, I think it's probably going to be a popular card in Standard. Probably decent in Limited. But it's human soldier, so I don't think it's a C play in humans or anywhere else, but still gonna be a good card. Moving on, we have Garna, Blood Fist of Keld, red, black, and 1. Human Berserker, whenever another creature you control dies, draw a card if it was attacking. Otherwise, Blood Fist of Keld deals 1 damage to each opponent. That's a great ability for a 4/3, I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna be great in Limited. Probably gonna find its place in Standard in some kind of deck. But might not go farther than that just because of the 4 mana is very restrictive. Next we have Phyrexian Missionary. So a white and 1 for a Phyrexian Human Cleric. Yeah, kicker black and 1. A 2/3 with lifelink. When the missionary enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So for 4 mana, this is a 2/3 lifelinking Gravedigger. So it's got 1 more toughness. And if you don't have anything in the graveyard for a white and 1, you can make a 2/3 of lifelink. This seems amazing. Great for limited. Probably going to see a lot of standard play. Probably might not go more past that just because the 4 mana is a bit much, but this is a great uncommon. Next we have Tear Asunder. So green and 1, kicker black and 1. It's an instant. Exile target artifact or enchantment. If this spell was kicked, exile target non-land permanent instead. So this is pretty good. I mean, if you're playing black and green, 4 mana to exile any non-land permanent is a good deal. But the ability to basically have a green disenchant that exiles, and if you can't exile, and they don't have artifacts and enchantments, once you get to 4 mana, it's a removal spell. This is the kind of utility that black, green, or any color is looking for in a card. This is going to see lots of play. Moving on, next we have Maria, Scholar of Antiquity. So red, green, and 1 for a 3/3. Tap an untapped non-token artifact you control to add 1 green. Interesting. Tap 2 untapped non-token artifacts you control. Exile top card of your library. You may play it this turn. All right, that's busted. Yeah, you can't do it with tokens, but there's plenty of good artifacts you can use that helps you get other artifacts that are actual cards and not tokens. Not to mention, this is going to see Commander, Limited. This is probably going to see Standard. And this may sneak into some older formats where artifacts are heavily used just for the ability to tap them and start getting cards you can play. Next we have Negate got reprinted. Wah, wah. So that's great. Moving on. Next we have Tribute to Urborg, a black and 1, kicker blue and 1. Target creature gets -2/-2 to the end of turn. The spell is kicked. That creature gets an additional -1/-1 to the end of turn for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. This is a great removal spell as a common, and it has the ability to do good removal spell, to be pretty much a universal removal spell later, so that it's not, hey, I got a 5/5, your -2/-2 won't work. All you gotta do is have 3 more instants and sorceries in your graveyard, and for 4 mana, this will kill a 5/5. So I think this is gonna be really great for limited, but probably won't see much play past that. Next, we have Phyrexian Rager reprint. What do you guys think about that? That's right, the good old Rager. A black and 2 for a 2-2 that when it comes into play, you draw a card and lose a life. Yes, it's black. Yes, it's common. Why not put draw cards on it? Yeah, this is the original Phyrexian from the original set. I'm actually glad to see it come back because it's a powerful card and I like it. Uh, Vohar, Vaudeline Desecrator. That's interesting. Black and blue for a 1-2. Legendary Merfolk Wizard that says tap, draw a card, then discard a card. If you discard an instant or sorcery card this way, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. That's very interesting. For 2 and sacrificing this card, you may cast target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard this turn. If that spell would be put in your graveyard, exile it instead. That's disgusting. So this is going to be an amazing card in several formats. Limited, probably standard, definitely the older formats and Commander, where you're wanting those weird shenanigan cards back out of your graveyard to get them again. So yeah, I think this is going to see a little bit of legs. Next we have Elas Ilkor Sadistic Pilgrim. That's right, there's cores. Black, white for a core cleric Phyrexian 2-2 with Death Touch. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. Another great card for the Aristocrats deck that gives life and it gives us and it taketh away. Plus, it's a 2-2 Death Toucher, so this card's pretty amazing for an uncommon. Not gonna lie. Next, we have the Automatic Librarian. So for 3, you get a 3-2 that when it enters the battlefield, you scry 2. So it's only a common. It's not good enough for standard or other formats, but this is definitely a powerhouse in limited, and maybe even, I don't know, Commander if you're looking to dig through your deck. I mean, it's probably better things to do, but this is a good common. It even blocks. So next we have the Elvish Hydromancer, green and 2 for a 3-2. It kicks for a blue and 3. When the Hydromancer enters the battlefield, if you kicked it, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. So for an additional 4, you can make a second one of these. Or for an additional 4, you can make a second something, I don't know, egregious that's on the battlefield already, like Crater Hoof or God knows what else. Anyway, this is a pretty decent uncommon. It's probably going to see a lot more play in Commander than it will in any of the formats. Limited's going to be pretty good because, 7 mana is a lot, but late game, you may need this. So, and with that said, that is the end of the spoilers for today. Thank you for your time and giving me a chance to entertain you and listen to my rambles. So as always, guys, don't forget, comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Comments down below will feed that YouTube algorithm. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I appreciate any one little click you can give. Also, if you've done everything you can but you want to do more, or you're just looking for some good deals, links in the description to my eBay store where I sell cards and all kinds of other sweet swag for games. Also, there's a Patreon where you should subscribe monthly and get free swag and deals to go along with that support of the channel. And there's an email in there if you just want to say, hey. And without further ado, until next time, be kind, and I hope to see you across from the game table.